Okay, when you extract the square root, you're going to follow these steps. Okay, this will happen if you have just a single variable or if you have a binomial square. Okay, you're going to isolate the variable or the binomial square. Okay, and then you're going to take the square root of both sides. This is called extracting the square root. You have to take into consideration both the positive and negative root. Once you do that, you're then just going to solve the resulting equation for whatever your x value or variable is. Okay, so if I gave you that same problem, okay, solve 9x squared minus 1 equals 0. So because there is just a single variable term, there's no x term here, you can solve by extracting the square root here. Your steps for this would be first isolate your variable, so I'm going to add 1 to both sides. Continue to isolate that variable, divide by 9. So I get x squared is equal to 1/9. Once I get my variable completely isolated, I'm going to extract the square root. Extracting the square root means that we take the square root of both sides, and you have to take into consideration both the positive and negative root. You have to consider the plus and minus. The square root of 1 is 1, the square root of 9 is 3, and so there's your answer. X is equal to, you'd still write it smallest number first, followed by the larger number, -3, and then +3. Okay, this again holds true even for binomial squares. So even though they may not have just a single variable in the expression, if you see something where you have a binomial square, your two options for solving this would be to expand your binomial. Okay, so expand that binomial square and then combine all your like terms and then solve. The problem with that is often when you solve, you'll wind up with radicals, meaning you won't be able to find binomial factors for this. You'll have to use either quadratic equation or completing the square, which are methods that we'll talk about later in the chapter. So if you can identify a binomial square, you can jump right to this step. You isolate that binomial square, extract your square root. When you do that, you have to take into consideration the positive and negative root. We can simplify 18. What perfect square factor can you remove from 18? 9 times 2, the square root of 9 comes out as a 3, and the factor of 2 stays inside. Okay, and so when we isolate this, we add 12 to both sides. Whatever you do in this last step to isolate and solve for x, write it in front of the plus or minus. Okay? And whatever your plus minus is, that's going to be the last part of your answer. Okay, so plus or minus 3 root 2 is going to be at the end of your expression. Whatever you do here, whether you're adding or subtracting a number, so here it's just a positive 12, it goes in front of that plus or minus. So this would be our answer here, and in order to write this, you write the smallest one first. The smaller one is going to be the negative. Okay, so you get 12 minus 3 root 2, and 12 then plus 3 root 2. The final step on this is if you were entering this online in this class, your answer would be written with sqrt's to represent the square root. But it does need to be in the correct order. The smaller one first, followed by the larger one.